about mathematical properties. A property is simply a rule that holds true when operating with numbers. We're going to learn about three different properties today: the commutative property, the associative property, and the identity property. I'm going to give you a definition and examples for each of these properties. If I'm talking too quickly, make sure you pause the videos so you can write down the definitions and the examples. The first one is the commutative property. The commutative property simply states that the order in which you add or multiply numbers does not affect the answer. The order in which two numbers are added or multiplied does not change the sum or the product. I want you to pay attention to two particular words here. The order, commutative property has to do with the order. And the other thing is that it holds true for either addition or multiplication. It's only true for addition or multiplication. Consider these examples. 7 plus 9 is the same thing as 9 plus 7. It doesn't matter if I add 7 plus 9 or 9 plus 7. I'm going to get the same sum. 7 plus 9 is 16. 9 plus 7 is 16. Algebraically, A plus B is the same thing as B plus A. It's also true for multiplication. 4 times 6 is the same thing as 6 times 4. 4 times 6 is 24. 6 times 4 is 24. A times B equals B times A. Remember to write down all these examples. Pause the video if you need more time. The second property is called the associative property. And this property has to do with grouping, the way we group numbers. The way in which three numbers are grouped when they are added or multiplied does not change their sum or product. We're often using this rule when we have three or more numbers. Again, key words here are grouping, and we're talking again about addition and multiplication. Consider these examples. 3 and 9 and 4. If I have three numbers, it doesn't matter if I add 9 plus 4 first and then add the 3, or if I add 3 plus 9 first and then add the 4. I'm going to get the same answer. This demonstrates the associative property. This rule is called the associative property. See, 9 plus 4 is 13, and then add 3 would give me 16. If I add 3 plus 9 first, I would get 12, and then add 4, I would still get 16. What I want you to notice here are the parentheses. The parentheses are the grouping symbols. Here they're around the 9 and 4, here they're around the 3 and the 9. This is often confused with the commutative property. The difference is, in the commutative property, the numbers are actually moving around. They're commuting around in the problem. See, 9 and 7 are switching places. 4 and 6 are switching places. In the associative property, the numbers are not moving. See, 3 is first, 9 is second, 4 is third. In this, 3 is still first, 9 is still in the second place, and 4 is still in the last position. The difference is the grouping symbols are moving. Here the parentheses are around 9 and 4. Here the parentheses are around 3 and 9. This also holds true for multiplication. 8 times 5 times 7. 8 times 5 times 7. Nothing different in the numbers. The numbers are not moving. The parentheses are moving. The associative property says that I can do 5 times 7 first, get that product, which would be 35, and then multiply by 8. And that should give me 280. And if I do things in a different grouping order, 8 times 5 is 40, and then multiply by 7, I will still get 280. So the associative property says that the way in which numbers are grouped when adding or multiplying does not change the answer. Again, I know I'm talking quickly. If any of that doesn't make sense, and pause the video, rewind it, watch it again. Make sure you get the examples down. Let's look at the third property here, the identity property. The identity property state that the sum of an addend and 0 is that addend. The product of a factor and 1 is the factor. Let's put this in simpler terms. Take a look at this example first. 13 plus 0 is 13. Anything plus 0 is that same number. So, the identity property of addition simply says that any number, I'm going to use a symbol for number, any number added to 0 is the same number. Again, write down the example. That really makes sense. Any number plus 0 is that same number. If you see a problem like this, you might think, oh, that's the identity property. The identity property says that anything plus 0 is that same number. This also works for multiplication. All three of these properties work for addition and multiplication. Identity is a little bit different though. When you talk about the identity property of multiplication, this means that 7 times 1 is 7. Anything times 1 is that same number. In the identity property, you're seeing the number in the answer. The number in the answer. Same thing here, the number in the answer. The number in the answer. So it states that any number multiplied by 1 is that same number. So both the identity properties here, we have identity property of addition, also known as the additive identity. The identity property of multiplication, also known as the multiplicative identity. Both say that any number added to 0 is the same number, any number multiplied by 1 is the same number. Okay, you may be thinking, how is this going to help me? How am I going to use this? What do I have to do with this? Simply being aware of these words will help you solve problems faster. Being aware of these rules, these properties, will help you solve problems faster in the future. Properties, again, are statements that are true for any number. The expressions 6 times 10 and 10 times 6 are called equivalent expressions. Equivalent is a fancy word for equal. It means equal. They have the same value. So here's an example of what you need to be able to do. Determine whether the two expressions here are equivalent. Are they equal? If so, tell what property is applied. If not, explain why. Here we see 3 numbers. That should give you a hint. If you look back at the property examples, the property that had 3 numbers was the associative property. Let's see if that's true. 15 plus 5 plus 8, 15 plus 5 plus 8. The numbers are not moving. If you look carefully, you see the parentheses are moving. Here they're around to 5 and 8. Here they're around to 15 and 5. So let's follow order of operations here. 5 plus 8 would give me 13. And then I would add 15 to 13, and that would give me 28. Let's make sure this is true. Are they equivalent? 15 plus 5 is 20, and then 20 plus 8 is also 28. So I would write, yes, these are equal. You should have known that from the beginning because the associative property is being demonstrated. So I would write, yes, this is the associative property of addition. Associative property of addition. So the idea is that you don't actually have to solve. You don't have to actually compute anything if you know the property rules. If you know that, well, these are the same exact numbers on both sides. The only thing changing is the parentheses are moving. This is the associative property. It doesn't matter how I group numbers when adding or multiplying, I'm going to get the same answer. So these expressions are equivalent. I'll show you 3 more and then we're going to be done. Actually, 4 more. Take a look at this one, 20 minus 12 minus 3. 20 minus 12 minus 3. The grouping symbols here are around 20 and 12. Here they're around 12 and 3. You should notice something very important, and that is that the operational symbol here is subtraction. It is subtraction. None of the property rules that we've learned involve subtraction. Let me show you why this is not going to be true. This is going to be a big no. 20 minus 12, we have to do that first. That would give me 8. And 8 minus 3 is 5. Consider this order, or this grouping. 12 minus 3 is 9, and 20 minus 9 does not give me 5. It gives me 11. And 5 is not equal to 11, so this is a big no. The associative property does not hold true for subtraction. Is this true? 34 plus 0 and 34. Are these expressions equivalent? Yes, of course. 34 plus 0 is 34, and 34 alone is 34. This, look back at your notes, is the identity property. The identity property of addition states that anything plus 0 is that same number. Take a look at this. 20 divided by 5, 5 divided by 20. Again, the commutative, associative, and identity properties only hold true for addition and multiplication, not for division. Let me prove it to you. 20 divided by 5 is 4. 5 divided by 20, that's not even a whole number. If you think about it, it's going to give me a fraction. 5 divided by 20 can be simplified to 1/4, which is in decimal form 0.25. This is not the same as 4. So no, these are not equivalent. I want you to try 2 quick problems, and then we will be done with this lesson on properties. Pause the video and then unpause it and we'll check answers. In this one, the answer is that yes, they are true. Yes, they are equivalent. And the property being shown here is, you have to look really closely. The numbers are not moving, the parentheses are. So this is the associative property of multiplication. This one, you see the symbol of division, so the answer is no. These are not equivalent. The properties do not hold true for division or subtraction. Come prepared tomorrow to do some more practice with identifying properties and using them to make math simpler.